For the riches of Yah, the blessings, the fullness of His truth revealed in His precious Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. So we do Berach our Abba for all of His great Berachaya, blessings of His riches that He showered down upon Israel, a people, a nation that He has scattered throughout the breadth of the earth to the four corners, that have become so subjugated by the mire of sin that we are almost unidentifiable. Yah created this nation. He intended for it to be the greatest nation, the nation of abundance and riches, with His mighty power being the horn of their strength. So everything that they did would have been done in the power or in the actions by which He commands us to operate, and the nations would have seen the fruitfulness of a people that we would identify with the Abba, the Creator, simply by them looking at the plenty and the beauty of the earth. Then they would have seen the same expression in the bosom of Israel. His elect, His people, He has called, He has set them apart from all nations. He intends for us to be set apart from all nations, not to be like any other nation, not to act like any other nation, but the people that set apart for the service of His Beats, His house, to offer up unto Him the offerings that are acceptable, that He takes great delight in. What a great privilege that is, Israel. We simply do not understand the beauty of Yah, so we don't get excited about it. Now, it's not very hard to get excited about a nickel-dime product that you think that you're getting a deal. We have gotten the best deal that one could ever desire. He has dealt us His right hand. And His right hand is Yeshua HaMashiach. You could not have gotten a better deal than the deal that He has granted unto us. So I think that I'm going to testify of His power, His beauty, and I'm simply going to rejoice in Him. I am. Hallelujah. I'm not going to be before us long tonight, believe me. I wanted to continue on the prayer, the offerings of our prayer unto Yah, but my mind has been somewhat troubled that I want to simply go another direction just for a moment of time. We need to understand the context of what Torah teach us, Israel. We must do that. I don't know how to say this, how I impress this upon a people that say that we have a great fervor of ahab, love for Yah, when there is no true engagement with Him. When the letters that He has written unto us to govern us, that when we enter into His Be'at, we will offer unto Him a love that is so pristine and pure, that even the Melechim, the messengers of Hashem, the heavens, they will rejoice just in our presentations unto Yah. Our minds have negated the command of Yah that we labor to understand, that we study, that we inquire of Him, that we seek of Him, that He would guide us to the proper place whereby we can be refreshed. We're not a people that's refreshed because of our own neglect. We don't want to incriminate ourselves of our own neglect before Almighty Yah. And if we do not do that, we will never begin to make inroads to understand the beauty of Yah's government, His mishra, that we may enjoy the bountifulness of His plenty, His desire, His command to Abraham, our forefather, that he would be the Avat Achoim of nations, and the nations would supersede every nation. Somewhere we have missed the plan of Yah through our own nigla and our own stubbornness. We have drastically missed the mark. So the only way that he could bring us back to the point of reference, he had to endow us with his mind. The only mind that can operate within the confines of flesh was represented in Yeshua HaMashiach. And that mind is the living power of Torah, that in everything that it does, it pleases Almighty Yah. He delights in that mind. He takes residency in that mind. His Torah takes residency in that mind. And we as a nation, people and individuals, we have missed it all. The reason why, because we're not a people that take heed to the words, the warnings, the instructions, the teachings, the testimonies of Yah. We don't take heed to that, Yisrael. And what that caused us to do our minds began to function in this erratic states. Is questions now instead of obedience. Is questions instead of complying. There's a reason not to comply because there are questions in our minds, but we must take heed. Everything that Yah does, it is to warn his people. And the only reason we can take heed to the warnings of Yah, because we don't have emunah. It may sound incriminating, but it is the truth of our nature. It's just the truth. I cannot negate to tell us that, Yisrael. I want to start quickly because we're not going to be here long, all right? I want to read out of the Chatzvei in the book of Yechanan, and the Brit Hadassah in the book of John, and I would have begun in chapter 8. And our attention, as the eloquent speaker would say, our attention drawn to verse 31. I want to begin reading. It says, then after Yeshua warns them, Yechanan, John 8:31. It says, Yeshua began to Omar, he began to speak and utter these words. Then Yeshua said to those that were Yehudim, which believed on him. Now this is what he cautioned them. He says, if you continue in my Torah, my Davar, the promises of Yah, he said, then you are the ones that are disciplined indeed. Now, when one continue in the process of an action, one must be attentive to that. Must not one be? One must give attention. One must give substance and passion to that. So we must continue. If one is taking a journey to California, you must pay attention to the warning signs. You must pay attention to the speed limit, the direction. You must take the appropriate way and continue in that way if you want to reach the destination. So we must continue in the Torah of Yah in order to reach the destination of Yah. Who we began to veer, we're not going to ever reach that, Israel. We have kid ourselves with pretense and our little childish games, but we're not making inroads into the depths, the power, and the knowledge of Torah. Because if that is the case, then our countenance will light up at the name, at the presence of Yah. To think that the Most High, 2 or 3 of us have gathered in his name, and Yah is in the midst. Do we really believe that? Come on, Israel, we truly don't believe that, do we? We really don't believe that. We have a tremendous amount of pretense, but we really don't believe that. Because when 2 or 3 of the true Chazor, Israelites gather in the presence of Yah, there is no impossibility that he will not, but he shall also gather with us. He shall also gather with us. So he gave them instructions of warning that we must continue in his Torah. He said, then you will be the disciplined ones indeed, for certainly you are the ones that are disciplined by Yah. He said, only then. And then you shall yada, you shall discern, you shall know, you shall praise, you shall worship, you shall understand, only then. And so the enemy, he has caused our minds and our desires to negate the appropriate time with Yah to understand his Torah. So there is very little effort given unto him, and there is very little pursuit of the knowledge of Yahshua, because we don't continue in those ways. And then we began to grow lean in our ruach, we grow lean in our bodies, we grow lean in the spirit. And as far as having a great propensity of great love for him, it's just not among Israel. It's just not among his people for him. He said, and you shall know Cha'imat, the truth. And he says unto us that the truth shall make you free. You shall be choshi. You shall be free. You shall not be bound by the taxation of obligation of slavery of your mind. The elements of the world, the spirit and the system of the world shall never bind you. You shall not be subjugated unto the power that our minds are constantly pondering. What shall we eat today? What shall I do? What about this? What about that? That is the mind of Israel. We're not pondering, what do I do to please Almighty Yah? Only when we began to yada his Torah, only then, and we continue in that, we shall know, we shall understand, we shall be able to discern his truth when it is spoken. Only then will we yada his imams, and then we shall be made, our minds shall be made, it shall be made over. When you make something, you began from scratch, do you not? So Yah began from scratch with the earth and us. He made us out of the dust of the earth. But a daughter, a Baptist Zion, when she began to make a dress, she begins with a pattern. And then she likes new cloth. She doesn't want anything that has been used for some other purpose. She wants new cloth. And Yahshua is the brightness of the renewed power of the way of Yah. If we walk in him, then we will understand his iman. We walk in our flesh, we're not going to understand. And what that does, it opens the doors when we don't walk in that. It opens the door to the carnal mind. And the carnal mind just doesn't love Yah. It never warns us against the impending destructions and the things that will do us great detriment. It will never do that. So our minds are not ready for the things that oppose Yah. And when we try to stand for Yah, we have no strength to do that. There was a prison that called us today. And Simeon was there when he began to talk. I used a speaker telephone. He asked, do you have a little time? Now he's bound 30 years in prison, a young man. I said, sir, how did you find out about me? He said, my 11-year-old daughter sent me the information about you. So she sent me your telephone number and all of this. Can you answer a few questions for me? I said to Simeon, I knew the nature of this man was sincere, calling from prison. And the reason I know that, because he did not call collect. He called and he paid for the call. Because if I had, or if one received a collect call from the prison, you talk 10 minutes, 12 minutes the way we did, it will cost you minimum $25, $30 for that call. So that alone, and my approach with this young man was totally different, because I knew that there was something there that was genuine. And so when I began to answer his questions, I said to him, do you have anyone beside your daughter that shows any concern for you? He said, I have no one, for they all have gone and forsaken me. But he said this quite interesting. He said, as I was in agony in the streets, this is what, and I do appreciate Almighty Yah, that even here, he brought me to this place to make me free now. And now I'm free. I'm free to inquire of him, to seek out his counsel, to understand the depths of his wisdom. Now to me, that's very esoterical. That this man, bound by the shackles of the bondage of the prison house, yet all of his liberty that he thought that he had, he was never able to come to the dynamic knowledge of the power of Yah's imat. And he said this, he said to me, although I am here, I am free. I am free. I am liberated. I have liberty. And then he said another interesting thing. He said, I have time now to seek and to inquire and to study the Torah. You see, that's what Yah is going to have to do to his people, because we will not take heed to the oods, the warnings of Yah. We do not take heed to the teaching. It doesn't inspire Yisrael. It doesn't cause us to get excited about Almighty Yah. So he's going to bring us to that same as he has already. We're bound by the shackles of our own depravity, our own sin, and our own corrupt ways. That's why we don't have the freedom to truly move in the power of his Ruach Yisrael. Where the Ruach of Yah is, it is the power of his liberty. And that's a fact, Yisrael. The young man said, I'm free, although I am bound by the chains and the confines of prison. He said, I'm more free now than I was in the world. I'm free now. And so when one speaks like that, it does a tugging on my love. And I said, you write me, and I will respond to you. And it wasn't 20 minutes later, he had written to me. I hear from prisoners in prison, but there's a process you have to go through and to utilize the federal government system to respond to them. And so he wrote me immediately a letter, an email, that he may inquire of the truth of Almighty Yah. And that is what Yahshua said. If you continue in the Torah of Yah, then you shall know the truth. And you shall be Hoshi. We shall have the Hoshia, the freedom of Yah. The freedom of his power to operate within the statutes, the ordinance of the Torah of Almighty Yah. And once we began to operate in that, we have the fullness of his power, Yisrael. We are a people that very lean. We don't have much strength among ourselves because we're not people that are embodied with the strength of Almighty Yah. And until we recognize that, then we're going to be people, our minds are going to be farther cast away from him. And that's the truth, Israel. We must eat the lechem, the whole bread. This is the whole stay of bread. This is what keeps us steadfast, abounding in the ways, or the way, the derech of Yah. This bread. And so when the enemy keeps us from this bread, we don't continue, we don't abide in the derech of the way of Yah. We don't walk in the way.